Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're here with Jaime.
Hey,
he's a super awesome craftsman. He builds VWs. He's been doing it since he was 16. And this one is one of our favorite builds. So we want to show you it. Jaime's so nice to check it. So let's check it out.
Thanks, Danny. Yeah, I'd love to show this. So I have been doing van life for a long time, and I decided to move on from air-cooled Volkswagens to a Sprinter. So I bought this 2002 Sprinter about a year ago on Martin Luther King Day 2018. And the reason I bought this is if you look through, Kevin, you're going to see the other door, and we'll just kind of walk on through. It's a double door slider. Woohoo! So this is kind of rare, and some Volkswagens, some commercial Volkswagens had this option, and when I saw it, I just jumped on it. The other reason is it was a Homeland Security vehicle. It had an X-ray machine in the back, 2 awnings. They were running cargo through and checking it out, and it had less than 6,000 miles because it was predominantly parked in one place. So if you come on through, I'll go ahead and give you a little kind of tour of this side. This is where I fill my water tank, and I do have an area where I usually keep toilet paper and things for if I'm camping and I'm using the bathroom out in the wilderness. I do have a water pump down here at the lowest point with a switch to turn off the water pump so it doesn't wake me up. And then there's an area in here if you need to turn off a shut-off valve so that you don't, if you have a problem, you can just kind of kill the water. So that's mostly what that side of that cabinet's for. The van already had this grill here, and I'm not sure what it was for, but I just left it. And then coming around to the back, I do have a little shower spigot that's right in here, and it's kind of hard to get out. I usually have to open the door and kind of feed it out a little bit. I could end up spraying the camera right now if I don't do it right. So this thing works really well.
Oh, wow.
And you can also leave it on if you want to, if you push this little button when it's on, and then you can kind of just hang it up. And what I usually do is I usually hang it over the door with both doors open, and I put a shower curtain on with some little clothespins, so it's kind of just makeshift right now. It'll get changed around later. And this was something I found on Amazon, and I bought it because it's stainless steel and it just seemed more robust, and it had everything it needed. So this vent was here too. I just put the plate there to go ahead and keep that intact. And then if we come around to the very back of the van here, what we have is a pretty big power system. And I was lucky to already have these lithium ion packs that came from a smart car that Tesla had built for the original prototype of the Mercedes Smart. So there's 4 packs, and they're 3 kilowatts each, so it's 12,000 kilowatts, it's 60 volts, really 57 nominal. So my charge is 50 to 61.5, and I have my MPPT right here, which is saying 54.3 volts, about 6 amps and 326 watts coming in. And then up here is a Connex, which allows me to check what's happening with loads and solar input, outputs, shore power charging, everything from a diagnostic standpoint on my laptop. This is my main breaker panel for everything that's happening with the solar system. And then I have my inverter charger, which allows me to either charge or invert power for 120 appliances like my Vitamix blender, this Bosch 4-gallon water heater, which I only turn on when I'm taking the shower, so it doesn't use a lot of power. It takes about 10 minutes at about 1,500 watts, I believe, to power up, so it doesn't use much. On this side, I did kind of try to keep AC power over here, so everything coming off the inverter is 110 AC, and then everything going on the other side is all DC. So in this little Midnight Solar baby box, that's all DC breakers, and then I do have a fuse box for little consumers, and I have a bunch of step down voltage regulators because I'm coming out at 60 volts. I need to drop it down to 12 volts for everything. And then the last but not least back here is I do have a pin, and I do have a couple of rails, and I have mountain bikes that I can kind of slide in and slide out. So that's all that's going on back there. There is a Bluetooth amplifier I do like to use as well that I can kind of control from the front of the car when I'm driving. So the main idea for me with this van was I need to be able to work on the road, and I usually do computer work even though I'm in transition trying to figure out the next spot, but I did need this kind of a bench desk situation, and believe it or not, the people filming this were the inspiration for my design. So the Van Kooks, Danny and Kevin, showed me this on April 28th at the 2018 Van Life meetup in San Diego. They had a desk here, they had a bench here, and they also had this slat bed, which I thought was rad because if you think about all your options, you can put flares on, but you're still going to be wider than this. So this is the most space-saving way for a small 140 wheelbase Sprinter van, and that's what this is. This thing slides all the way out to here, and then there's 2 mattresses, so they're cut in half, It's a 5-inch lucid foam, the same thing you guys have. I kind of take your tips, you know, and just go with it. So that's how much I have. Now, when I'm in bed mode, I can still access my kitchen, and these have little rails and little areas to slide things out. It's pretty messy now. And I even have like special little cup holders just to kind of keep things, you know, in place so that they don't break when I'm driving. So I do like this. It's a timbre door. I got it on Craigslist and then just kind of built the box around it. So that's kind of how that works, and it's pretty nice. I can also access my fridge still, so if someone's sleeping, I can get in my fridge. I can get in my little drawers as well. So I'll kind of get into that next. My van's pretty simple. The main idea was lots of storage. I didn't know what I was going to take, what I was going to be doing, but I thought, let's just amp out as much storage as possible since I've been in VW buses, and it's minimal when you get in a VW bus. So I did go ahead and build these that are about 1 foot by 1 foot. A lot of people have commented on these, and it is kind of airplane-esque. It was a safety factor so I don't bump my head. And I got those on eBay UK, and they were a little bit more than I would like to spend because they had to be shipped and they had to be cut, but you can get them on eBay UK if you look for these. If you look up like RV camper vans in the UK, you'll find these, and then you can kind of get to the next spot. So all these cabinets, and this one's missing right now. Well, it's not missing, it just hasn't been installed. They all just lift up. I do have a couple AC outlets inside, and those were already in the walls when I bought the camper. It did have floor to ceiling gray carpeting. I only left it in the upper areas, and then I put this it's actually a mahogany based marine ply that I got on Craigslist, so secondhand, and I put an epoxy over it so it lasts for a long time. But plenty of space. I really like having those. I never feel like I'm running out of space at this point, so that's kind of a nice thing. And these were 12-foot pieces of, it's either birch or I think it's birch, and I used a jigsaw to go ahead and cut them, and so you get kind of like a nice grain pattern where it flows with the panel. So I kind of like that. I did use the little puck lights that just pop into the ceiling, and those are on dimmers, so I can just rotate all these and get lights. The one in the back I access from below the bed. I can still get to my inverter charger as well, so I keep a Wi-Fi monitor, or a Wi-Fi router up top, but if I turn off my inverter charger, that shuts down all the Wi-Fi at night, which I like to kind of kill before I go to bed. And let's see, what else does it turn off? I think that's about it. Everything else is 12 volts, so the fridge stays on and my water pump stays on. So I didn't know exactly what I was going to do for appliances, and I figured, you know, a woman would be a better choice, so I did kind of use Wild by the Miles example, and I just kind of grabbed whatever Liz had. I figured she knows, so I used her same faucet, and she was saying, you know, you can use this as a shower if you wanted to like pull this outside and shower off, which is a nice feature. The sink's super big. I got this on Amazon to hold my sponge usually. She also had the Ramblewood gas stove, which I really do like. And you can't see it now, but these work really well. There's a propane tank that's right here. It's a little 1 gallon, and it's in a little safety box so that it's safe. And I can take the whole box out, and then the gallon kind of pushes in there a little, so I can pull that out and get it refilled. I haven't had to refill it yet. I do have a Westphalia water tank here. It's about 16 to 18 gallons, somewhere in there. With my water heater, I have another 4, so I've got about 20 gallons, which I think is good for about a week, but I'd prefer to probably have 2 of these if I'm gonna be showering a lot. And then I did mount a little safe that's electronic and bolted in, and there will be a panel here eventually to hide all that. I also do have storage space behind my seat, just like the Vancouks have, so it's kind of nice for a couple briefcases or something. And let's see what else. So as far as drawers go, I probably wouldn't repeat these. These are sliding right now, but for some reason they're kind of hard to move. I'm gonna do something new. I'm not sure what it'll be, but I have, let me see if I can open this one. I have a little oven here. I do use this oven. It's plugged in all the time, and I just leave it out when I'm cooking, so it'll sit right here. One thing I'd probably recommend is putting some kind of a stop so you can pin it. I'd still need to add that, but that's a nice feature if you like toast, or if you want to make some French fries or something. It's really easy to do. And then right below it, I keep mostly like toiletries and kitchen stuff, so silverware, moisturizer, toothbrush, coffee grinder, deodorant, which I hardly ever use in van life, but good to have just in case. And then down below that, I have more like art supplies, batteries, just kind of knick-knack drawer. There's not a whole lot that you really need when you're doing this. And then down here is, well, there's some gin in there and vermouth, and then some dried fruit. We did have a bit of a party at RTR, so that's that. And I'm kind of experimenting with push to close and latches and possibly some of those Bloom soft closing slides, which is probably what I'll end up going with eventually. I did go with the truck fridge. It's 4.2 cubic feet. It's massive. I mean, you can get easily a week's amount of food, and you can even squeeze some, you know, pint ice cream in the freezer, and it does keep it really cold. This is definitely a good deal. Another tip from Danny. I'll go into this one first. So there's usually 2 trash cans and a recycling bin on here. They're being cleaned right now, and so I do like to have an ample amount of space so I don't have to worry about that when I'm off, you know, camping and stuff. I usually have a vitamix that pops out right here, so I can just drop my little jar on, and this shelf was designed to fit the vitamix right in this location, so it just barely slides in and it kind of locks in. So I'm big on smoothies. I like to have one a day if I can, and when you're camping it feels great to be healthy, and so I do like that. I do have my fresh water tank. This is on a restaurant place. It's glass, which is really nice, and you can get a stainless steel spigot if you want, and then to recharge you just pull out this little lever and then you just slide the glass out. The top comes off. There's one drawback that it does leak around the top lid, so you're gonna have to kind of build a seal, and I haven't done that yet, but pretty easy to install and use, and it's nice just to be able to see your water and know that you don't have any kind of contamination or mold growing in there. And then over on this side, this is a little bit cumbersome. I have some push to open latches that are gonna get changed out for the Bloom soft close, but I usually keep pots and pans here because it's my stove. Sometimes I'll put onions and potatoes and other food items in there as well. And down below, kind of the last but not least thing is the Nature's Head toilet, and it slides out. It's a little bit hard to do it from this location, but normally if I push the 2 locks, it'll slide out and it'll kind of fit between that chair, and so, you know, in the night you can leave it out or you can push it back in, and eventually there will be something more secure here, but the locks do keep it in place so you don't have to worry about it flipping over if you stop fast. Because I don't mount mine down with the normal latches. I just kind of have a tight clearance so that it couldn't come out if it wanted to, which is important when you design that in. And then I do have my surfboard here because I love to surf, and the mountain bikes go in the garage. I have usually a skateboard with me. This was kind of an afterthought, but I realized with so much solar on the roof, which is 720 watts, it's 4 180 great solar panels, I wasn't going to be able to fit a board up there, and I didn't want to keep it on the outside. I wanted it to be more stealth. So that's kind of encroaching a little bit on my closet space, which is over here. There's enough space for another rack, so there will be 2. I'll probably enclose it with another timber door or something. And then I do have this Max fan, which is always on. I never turn this off. And I do have a Dyson hot cold, but the hot takes way too much energy, I noticed, so it's more of a ventilation system to keep the air circulating in the van. And last but not least, I have this Webasto AirTop 2000, which is underneath the passenger seat. It's amazing, and man, that thing will just kind of sweat you out of your home at night. Even if it's down in the 30s, it keeps up. It runs off of diesel, so you've got an endless supply. It takes a gallon every 24 hours, so that's like 3 nights full-time heat for like $4. So I'd highly recommend that. So up front, there's a few little items I'd like to talk about. It's very unfinished up here, but I do have a rear view camera that I like a lot, and I like to keep that on all the time just because it's easier to park with it. And then I do have a battery monitor that I'm still hooking up. It's an Expert Pro. It tells me where the voltage is at on my lithiums. And then I have my Bluetooth kind of turn on my amplifier remote switch. And then these 2 seats swivel. Now these swivels actually came out of the junkyard in Oceanside, picked apart. There was some old Chevy or Ford van, and you know, they're all pretty similar as long as you're matching up your base mount bolts. So I took those and cut them down to make them as low profile as possible, and then had Escondido Metal just cut me some squares, and I drilled them out and welded it. And so these were really cheap. They were 50 bucks, I think, total, and then like $60 in parts, scrap metal. And then this is actually a Vanagon seat mount or table mount, and it's just bolted on down to the bottom of the passenger seat box. And this was at Pier 1 recently. It was a tray with some holes that I'm gonna fill, but it works really well. You can kind of slide it in and out of the way, and so you can have people eating here and here. There will be a table that flips out here, and then you can have 2 eating over there. So this works out well if you want to have a little bit of a social hour in your van. And speaking of that, when we were at RTR, there were 8 people inside this small van, if you can believe it. So we had a really good time having some drinks, cocktails, and chatting it up. So Anyway, thanks so much for watching the van tour. My name's Jaime Burns. I go by Peace, Love, and Van Life, mostly for my van life Instagram, and then I also have Lanterns and Lettuce, which is more my personal Instagram account. So you can check me out there, and hopefully I'll have a YouTube channel soon with this video when it pops up. So again, thanks and enjoy the journey.